NASA exposed.
Of NASA using numerous methods to grossly mislead the public about astronauts being on the International Space Station. During interior ISS scenes from NASA's own live feed, the use of wires, harnesses, green screens, and virtual reality have been detected to achieve the appearance of a weightless environment. Examples of this include astronauts fading in and out of the screen, green screen glitches, grabbing objects that aren't really there, pulling on invisible wires, getting tangled in their harnesses, and even astronauts appearing out of thin air. This begs the obvious question. If they're really up there, why are they using Hollywood techniques to fake the footage? Now, unfortunately, I can't show you these clips in here today, but I will be sending them to you. Outside the International Space Station, during spacewalks, air bubbles have been recorded on numerous occasions. How is it possible for air bubbles to be present in the vacuum of space? I once questioned astronaut Scott Kelly about this phenomenon. His body language and answers only created more questions. In 2013, astronaut Luca Parmitano nearly drowned during a spacewalk when his helmet filled with water. This happened again just last year. Air bubbles, helmets filling with water, and drowning. Are they in space or are they underwater? Now, what's really interesting is that they train for spacewalks in an underwater pool with a complete ISS replica. Now, surely they aren't filming these spacewalks in an underwater pool and then editing them to appear if they're in space, because that sure would be something, wouldn't it? I'm calling on the Brevard County Commissioners to open a full investigation into NASA's fraudulent practices and use of taxpayer dollars. It costs NASA $3 billion per year to operate the ISS, and if they don't have a darn good explanation as to why they're faking these videos, I and the public would like a darn good explanation as to where our tax money is going. And if they are indeed faking the funk, it is our duty to expose and eliminate this fraudulent and astronomically wasteful ISS program. And look, I know what you're all thinking. NASA is part of the federal government and you're just county commissioners. Even if what I'm saying is true, what can you do? But let me remind you, not only is this happening in your county, as public officials, you have the platform and the ability to make a statement or hold a press conference, alerting the public, state, and federal authorities to investigate further. You have the power to start the conversation. Video evidence of everything I described today will be emailed to you all, and I truly hope we can get to the bottom of this.
Let me know what you think in the
I look forward
comments.
to the day that $3 billion
NASA exposed.
of NASA using numerous methods to grossly mislead the public about astronauts being on the International Space Station. During interior ISS scenes from NASA's own live feed, the use
Proof dimensions are starting to mesh together.
If you remember watching Shazam in the 90s with Sinbad the actor, well, the movie never existed.
You all remember a movie called Shazam with Sinbad playing a genie? You know what? The movie was never real. It was, the rumor started in 2009. I don't know where it came from, but it's not real.
Millions of people remember watching this movie, but it never existed. Apparently, it's a Mandela effect, a collective false memory of something that a lot of people remember, but it never happened. Just like, for instance, the Mandela effects of the Monopoly guy with the monocle, the Berenstein Bears with an E, and George the monkey with the tail. These things never happened. And the thing is, I recently found videos of people who actually have a VHS tape of the Shazam.
I still don't
movie.
understand the whole issue with this movie Shazam with Sinbad.
If it never existed, how come a lot of people still have the VHS tape? Are we in a different timeline? Time travel? Parallel universe? What's going on?
But yet it never existed.
Strange, isn't it? But it gets even stranger. I found an original scene from the Shazam movie. In it, several Mandela effects.
What are you doing? Dad couldn't have thrown out all of Mom's stuff. He just couldn't have. James, there's gotta be something he forgot here. Something real we can remember her by.
George the monkey with the tail. What?
Hey, we have our memories. They're real. No one can take that from us. Yeah. Clean this up. Can you imagine if Dad saw this mess?
Really well done.
Bless you. What is that?
Berenstein Bears with an E. What? Nelson Mandela died at 68.
Took you long enough, Tina? Wait, y'all are not Tina.
Kidnapper! Wait, you knew her mom?
To make me my own dinosaur.
Last but not least, Carmen Sandiego with a yellow suit. Why would someone leave so many Mandela effects inside of a movie that never existed? What is going on here? Time travel or what?
Proof dimensions are starting to mesh together.
Conspiracy theory my ass, okay? Beyonce has a motherfucking clone, and I got proof. It's on camera. Now, before y'all even see this next clip, I just kind of want to explain to y'all what's going on. So, if you've seen the Grammys, Fantasia did a Tina Turner tribute in there. She did a performance for Tina Turner tribute. And during this performance, a little segment of the performance, she ends up saying how she needs a lady from the audience who doesn't mind moving their hips, right? So she goes and you'll see her dance with one lady, and then she goes and she's going up to Beyonce and she's trying to dance with Beyonce. Now they pan the camera off of Beyonce while she's supposed to be dancing with Fantasia, and then all of a sudden they bring the camera back. Now watch very closely Beyonce after they bring the camera back. Just watch her mannerisms.
I need to find a pretty lady that doesn't mind moving her hips. What about you? Dad, I need a pretty lady. You. One more. One more. You. Now I need every lady in this building.
Now you can't pay me $1 million to believe that that's a real person, and the real Beyonce at that. First of all, a lot of pictures are going viral saying how Beyonce doesn't look the same. She doesn't look herself. It's looking like she's aging. You know, some people were blaming it on the aging. Some people were saying that she was bleaching her skin because Beyonce at the Grammys was very much so lighter than we remember Beyonce originally being. So if you just watch the Super Bowl, you would also see the difference in the two Beyoncés that we have been seeing. And I don't think that a commercial that she did where in a scene in the commercial there was like a robotic her with her face, and then there was her right next to her looking like a double of her, a clone, a stunt double, all these different things. Yeah, I don't think that was a coincidence at all. You can't tell me in that video that, for one, that Beyonce was clapping on beat. That is Beyonce. Why did she have a hat on that was so low you could barely see her face to begin with, and she was seeming to move in a robotic type of vibe? How she was looking down and clapping all off fucking beat. And everybody else that's around in the industry and in Hollywood, they already know what's up. They already know what's up with the cloning. They already know what's up with the, you know what I'm saying, the secrets that you have when you're in these higher societies and amongst these higher stature beings with all this fucking money. They already know what it is to be in that industry. So, of course, they're not going to make a big deal like, oh my God, that's a clone, that's a clone. No, hell no, they're not going to do that, because Jay-Z's in the motherfucking building. And yeah, that nigga going, what? You gonna be dead, or your mama gonna be dead by tomorrow fucking with them. You know what I'm saying? The type of witchery and trickery they be on. You know, and it's not necessarily evil, it's just that they are in tune with powers that we don't know of, and they do use our ignorance against us in a lot of ways. And this new technology that they've been inventing with all these celebrities having clones, and it's real life shit, y'all. The AI, all that stuff is real. It's really real. Conspiracy theory.
There are people living inside of the Earth. It's true. New information from NASA states that there is a large ocean beneath the Earth's crust, after scientists detected movement below the surface. Around 500 miles below, a large supply of water has been found stored in a rock named ringwoodite. But it gets even crazier. Scientists say that this rock is so huge that it contains 3 times the amount of water on the Earth's surface. This causes many to believe that there is more down there than we originally thought, possibly even civilizations. While the news of this discovery was over 10 years ago, it was never talked about. Is the government hiding this information from us? What do you think?
Now this is fascinating. What if I told you that there is now proof that Jesus lived? The way this ends is just shocking. Okay, so back in 1982, there's this guy, Ron Wyatt. He's digging around in Jerusalem, and he hits the jackpot finding the Ark of the Covenant just chilling 20 feet under where Jesus was crucified. But here's where it gets really trippy. The lid of this Ark, it's cracked in half, and there's this strange dark stuff that had leaked into it. Wyatt, he's curious, so he scoops some of it up and sends it off to a lab in Israel. The lab tests this stuff and turns out it's blood, but not just any blood. This blood's got only 24 chromosomes, all from the mom, no dad. So we're talking about a kid born from just a mother. Wyatt's mind is blown, so he goes back to the spot, does a little more digging, and realizes this blood had dripped down from the exact place where they nailed Jesus to the cross, seeped through the cracks right onto the Ark. It's like we're not just talking about faith or beliefs anymore. We're looking at potential, tangible proof. Now this is fascinating. What if I told you...
You ever been down the Paramount rabbit hole? Yeah. Watch these 22 stars go and hover over the waters and then congregate over the Paramount. Para means what? Means breath. Breath means what? Well, breath means spirit, and it hovered over the waters in Genesis. So we have, count them, 22 stars, Paramount, paranormal mountain. What could be the paranormal mountain? Well, I'll tell you what, it's Mount Hermon. What's crazy is, in the book of Enoch, 200 angels fell on Mount Hermon and congregated, and there was 22 leaders that were named. Enoch chapter 6, and you can pause and read, but 200 angels, 22 of those were named, and these are all the angels that fell down and congregated at Mount Hermon to talk about how they were going to basically take over the world with unrighteousness. I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. I'll give you the opportunity to pause and read all of this, because in Enoch chapter 6 through 10, there's some interesting things that I personally feel like speak to what's going on right now. And when it comes to stars, Revelation 9 talks about a star fell from heaven and he was given the key to the bottomless pit. And Revelation 9:11 talks about Apollyon. Mount Hermon means the mountain of the chief. What chief? Could it be that chief star that looked like lightning falling from heaven? Hey, Yeshua saw it. It's so funny that stars, falling stars, are referred to as angels and angels referred to as stars. And you got this Paramount with 22 of these named stars, and the name Hermon meaning devoted to destruction. And in German it means soldier. So this is the mountain of the chief where 22 soldiers met to talk about destruction. And it's so weird that celebrities are called stars. And there's the Hollywood Walk of Fame with all of these stars that are named. I'm wondering if these fallen angels have inhabited bodies and taken over to bring more destruction to the earth. Because it seems that Hollywood and the music industry, they all promote unrighteousness and ungodliness, and it's like they're trying to spread it across the world. And if this Paramount is paying homage to this situation that happened in the book of Enoch, well, then that would have to mean that they know exactly what they are doing, and they're doing it on purpose. This is just the tip of the iceberg, because every 22 of these leader angels that are named, their names have meanings. They lead the 200 fallen angels that bring unrighteousness to the world. All the evil, the freaking magic, and all this crazy stuff that's going on. Superb owl rituals and all this creepy Masonic ritual. Oh, did you know that Mount Hermon is actually on the 33-degree north longitude? 33. Oh, and 1/3 of the angels fell with Lucifer, and 1/3 out of 100% just so happens to be 33.33%. This is just to get you started. Start going down this rabbit hole. Find out for yourself Look, they know what they're doing. They're paying homage to these fallen angels because, hey, they might just be the fallen angels. So next time you see a falling star, don't wish upon it. You ever been down the Paramount rabbit hole?
What if I told you that all corporations are actually just one giant mega corporation? And I'm not talking about metaphorically. And I'm not talking about BlackRock. I'm talking about what's really behind BlackRock. See, we hit 1 million followers on TikTok this week, and I've been waiting to post this video since the very first video that I made, laying the groundwork of understanding so that we're all going to understand this now that we're here. So let's break it down real simple. If you're going to go grocery shopping at a corporate grocery store, all these corporations are owned by these institutions. They're highlighted in red if they're on all 4 of these sheets. They're darker orange if they're on 3 of them, and light orange if they're on 2. And there's only a couple that only appear once. It's mostly the same money. But we go deeper. If you go for the biggest tech companies, it's basically the exact same list for all 4 of these. That would be Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Geode, which is similar to Fidelity Associated, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. And then Northern Trust is on 3 of them, and Capital World Investors is the exact same thing as Capital Research and Management Company. So you might think, okay, these are the institutions that own the whole stock market. But who owns them? And see, if you've been around here for a minute, you already know. They all own each other. Just a giant cross-ownership pool. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because see, way back before I'd even posted a single video, I was sitting in my office reading this report from an anonymous user on Reddit. And he had noticed the exact same thing that I'm talking about right now. And he wrote a program to put all that data into a visualization so we can see who owns who. And I'm about to show you what he figured out. Let's take BlackRock, for example. This is a list of the top institutional owners of BlackRock and how much of the company they own. And if you visualize it, it looks like this, where the whole square is all of BlackRock's stock, and they get a percentage of that square based on how much they own. And the important colors to note are that white symbolizes us, retail investors, and gray symbolizes insiders that work at the company. So that would be like Larry Fink's stock, among other people. And everything else is other giant corporations, investment banks. Like BlackRock themselves own a little bit. State Street owns some. Capital World Management owns some. Bank of America owns some. You see how this works? But then you think about it and you're like, well, wait a minute, because all of these institutions are owned by other institutions, right? So what if we put that data in here? Well, he did. And it looks like this. And you realize that all of this that was owned by Merrill Lynch is actually owned by all of these other institutions. And a little bit of us, retail, up there at the top. But here, we've only replaced Merrill Lynch's section. What about all of these guys? Well, then it looks like this. Remember, white is retail investors like you and me, and everything else is giant mega corporations. And if you go one layer deeper, filling in all those corporations with their corporations, you see how this program's working? And so then we simplify it to just black, gray, and white. And this is who owns BlackRock. White is retail investors like you and me. Gray is insiders at all of these corporations like CEOs and other executives. And black is just corporations owning each other. We'll call it Megacorp. This is the same process done for Bank of America and for State Street and for Best Buy, Amazon, Macy's. Groceries, food, ingredients, building and selling homes, even less white, meaning us, retail ownership. As far as I can tell, there's only one company on the entire stock market that is not owned by Megacorp. Can you guess who it is? Do you know? It's GameStop. Except that this photo's out of date because it's from a few years ago. It probably looks more like this if you believe the public info, which is a big if. But more on that another time. This is not a video about GameStop. This is about Megacorp. Because see, when all of the owners own each other, all of their interests are aligned. BlackRock wants State Street to do well because State Street wants BlackRock to do well because they both own each other. So who is the real final boss behind all the money? Well, isn't that the $1 million question? And ever since I've been asking those more important questions, my follower growth went from this to this. So you're not going to find those answers on this channel. You're going to have to go follow me in other places. All I'll say for now is that the next time you buy a product from a corporation like Nike or Costco or Best Buy or Amazon or any of these corporations, you're buying it from the mega corporation. They're all owned by the same big money. and it's all one big siphon, just vacuuming money out of our pockets up to the people on top. We'll make another video about how exactly they do that shortly. For now, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that is here and here and here. Your support means the world to me, and it allows me to do this work to help support small businesses and help look for the truth of what the heck's going on in this world. For all you guys that have been here since the beginning, you are legends. I notice you in the comments. I see you. I appreciate you, even if I don't get to as many comments and as many DMs as I used to. For all the people that have helped me do the digging, that have given me tips, that have collaborated along the way, I love you. You're amazing. Please never stop being curious. Do your own research. Don't trust the government, and get ready for a lot of censorship in 2024. So the very first video I ever posted on my page back in May of last year was about who owns everything. It only took us 8 months, a couple hundred videos, and 1 million followers to get right back to the exact same question. Who owns everything? What if I told you that all corporations are actually...
Would a natural disaster like severe flooding, displacing property owners, make this easier? Just a question. North Carolina is experiencing a resurgence of interest in lithium mining, fueled by the escalating demand for lithium-ion batteries, crucial for electric vehicles and renewable energy storage. This renewed focus is centered on the state's Carolina Tin Spodumene Belt, a geological formation rich in lithium reserves. Key players in this burgeoning industry include Piedmont Lithium. This company has secured a state mining permit for a substantial lithium project in Gaston County. This operation is projected to generate significant economic benefits for the region, but it also faces opposition from local communities concerned about potential environmental impacts. Albemarle Corporation. This company, with backing from the Department of Defense, DoD, is preparing to reopen and expand its lithium mine in Kings Mountain. This initiative aims to bolster domestic lithium production, fortifying the U.S. battery supply chain, and reducing reliance on foreign sources, a key component of the DoD's strategic objectives. The DoD's involvement underscores the importance of securing a reliable domestic lithium supply for national security and technological advancement. However, the environmental impact of lithium mining, including potential water contamination and habitat disruption, remains a significant concern. Balancing economic opportunities with environmental protection and addressing community concerns will be crucial for the sustainable development of North Carolina's lithium resources. Follow for more. Would a natural disaster...
Andrea Mitchell, thanks. In 60 seconds, the new draft report on UFOs. The Pentagon's expert warning about a possible mothership coming close to Earth. Stay with us. It may sound straight out of a movie, but the Pentagon and a Harvard scientist have collaborated on a new draft report questioning if we're alone in the universe and whether we've already seen evidence of life beyond Earth. Here's Gotti Schwartz.
Move over, Chinese spy balloon, or whatever else U.S. fighter jet shot down last month. Tonight, out of Harvard University, a draft paper about mysterious flying objects sounding almost like science fiction.
I think it's very likely that we are not the most intelligent civilization that ever existed.
Renowned Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb teaming up with the new head of the Pentagon's UFO office, dubbed the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Together they say that interstellar objects detected in space could be signs of extraterrestrial life, and that current sky mapping technology like the James Webb Space Telescope could miss such objects.
It could have been a mother ship that released some probes in the habitable region around the sun. If we have a visitor to our backyard, we should observe it at first.
Professor Loeb now leading the charge to build better arrays of sensors to capture anomalies, but saying for now everything is hypothetical, and his paper is really meant to remind UFO hunters not to forget the laws of physics.
As much as the reports from military personnel are intriguing and motivate my work right now, I want my instruments to tell me what is really happening.
Meanwhile, more videos surfacing showing odd objects have been leaked to documentary UFO filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, who recently released pictures of an orb shape over Mosul, and these images showing a cylinder flying over a rock. The Pentagon not commenting on the recent videos, but confirming prior videos released by Corbell had been filmed by service members. As for what they are, definitive explanations remain out of reach. Gotti Schwartz, NBC News.
That's one to talk over the dinner table tonight. Andrea Mitchell, thanks.
Unreal Engine 5.1 pretty much proves we're living in a simulation. I mean, just look at it. These graphics just keep getting better and they're seriously starting to trick my brain. According to simulation theory, if we ever get to a point in which we can't tell video game graphics apart from reality, and we're clearly starting to get there, then that essentially 100% confirms we are currently living in a simulation. The idea here is that any civilization advanced enough to create a VR world that is a one-to-one replica to reality will inevitably make such a simulation of the entire universe, complete with sentient life that believes itself to be real, just like you and me. So if we end up making a simulation that is a one-to-one replica of reality, including planets, humans, physics, the entire universe, then that simulation that we make is also guaranteed to make its own simulations into what's simulated after us. Think simulation meets Inception, a simulation inside of a simulation. So then if that's the case, this pattern of creating simulations within simulations will repeat forever inside this inevitable simulation chain. So then after all this infinite simulation nonsense, we essentially have one base reality and an infinite amount of simulated realities. Which means the chances of this current reality we're living in is the base reality is 1 over infinity. Which for those of you who don't understand math, 1 over infinity is 0%. So there is a 0% chance that we're living in the base reality, which is the only real reality. And a 100% chance that we're living in a simulated one. Yo, did that make sense? Because I don't even know this rabbit hole we just went down. Unplug from the Matrix, bro. Unreal Engine 5.1 pretty much proves
the assassination of President John F. Kennedy was an event that shook the nation to its core. And there's a million theories about what actually happened that day in Dealey Plaza. The most debated topic of all was whether or not there were multiple shooters. And a few years back, some evidence surfaced that might answer that question once and for all, as somebody located the origin spot for the kill shot on John F. Kennedy, and it comes from a place you would never have expected. Check this shit out.
The assassins have so far failed to hit him in the head. And it is now that they play the ace up their sleeve. Here we can finally answer the riddle of where on an empty street you can hide a man with a rifle, and how he can manage to shoot a man speeding past him in a limousine. Incredibly, the answer has lain hidden in the most well-known and iconic image from the assassination of the motorcycle policeman heaving his bike onto its stand. Look now as we freeze frame him here. This is the moment when the whole world was looking up the hill toward the man who had fired from the grassy knoll, but that is not where the police officer is looking. He is looking down into the storm drain, because that is where that shot at a stationary car came from. The shot which all of the well-known assassination witnesses described as coming from behind the picket fence missed completely and ripped up the grass at Jean Hill's feet. She did not even notice, but we know this is true because the FBI told her so. So who were the men who fired unseen from the storm drains on Elm Street? One thing we know is that they were very young and had to be brought into the conspiracy because they had to crawl into a filthy, smelly sewer, something which the older, experienced mafia assassins would never have dreamed of doing. They were basically two kids looking for excitement. The first was Curtis Laverne Crayford, also known as Larry Crayford. Formerly CIA, he had worked for Ruby at the Carousel Club, and Ruby had told everyone his name was Lee Harvey Oswald until Lee Harvey Oswald walked in. But while above ground, the world was taking pictures and running and screaming and trying to figure out what had happened, the other young man was stumbling along 400 yards of a reeking, fetid Dallas sewer pipe to emerge from this culvert. And he was not Lee Harvey Oswald, or Roscoe White, or J.D. Tippit, nor even a Cuban or Russian communist. His name was Jack Allen Lawrence. And we know that after stumbling up this bank, he turned up 15 minutes later at the Lincoln Mercury car showroom, where he'd obtained a job with false references, pale, sweating, and, on a hot sunny day in Dallas, covered in mud. Telling his co-workers Albert Bogard and Robert Tater he had been ill that morning, he stumbled into the men's room and threw up while they, feeling his behaviour was suspicious, called the police, who made a record of the entire incident.
The assassination of
George, that very few scholars even want to talk about it because they don't know what to say about it. It's a brief text. It's only about 2,000 lines.
All right.
And it is written as if an observer were present the day that the Creator created humankind, step by step. However, it's written in a language that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Is it like Genesis or totally different?
It's very different from Genesis. I think Genesis probably partially derived from this text, the Sefer Yetzirah, which is the book of creation. It literally translates to the book of creation. So it was as if someone were watching the Creator actually create the first person.
Doing what he did.
Doing what he did. But it is not written scientifically. The bottom line to what the text is saying is that through language, humankind was created. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Explain that.
If you take it literally. But as I began to follow the instructions as the author created them in this text, and this, George, this is the power of transcending the boundaries between science and spirituality. Because if a scientist only looked at the elements of life, you'd never make this discovery. If you only look at the spiritual text, you would never make this discovery. But it's by blending the two together and allowing them to tell the story. So we today, in modern science, we talk about life as the result of elements, and we describe elements through word and through number. So we have the periodic table, for example. Hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon makes up the DNA of our bodies. Those are the words, and for every one of those words, there are a lot of numbers that may be applied. There are 17 different numeric parameters that go with each of those. So put that aside. When you go back into the ancient text in the Sefer Yetzirah specifically, they did exactly the same thing. They talked about the power of the letters of very specific alphabets. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to modern scholars until we begin to understand that every ancient alphabet, bar none, that I have found so far, has always from day one, with each letter, had a mysterious number associated with the letters. We don't know where the numbers came from. They never change. It's a unique numeric code. The study of that code is called gematria, and it was actually formalized. The 32 laws of gematria were formed in the 2nd century. They were formalized in the 2nd century. And the only way gematria works is you cannot deviate from these laws. There are specific laws that apply to the numbers. So our ancestors were also talking about life using words and numbers. So they have the letters of the alphabets and this mysterious number. We're using the periodic table. We got a whole bunch of numbers.
Right.
My job was to find out which of those numbers equates to the numbers in the ancient alphabets. And if I could do that, my thinking was it would be possible to look at human DNA, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and different combinations of that, and substitute the ancient letters for the numbers based upon this correlation. This, in retrospect, it was simple, but not knowing that it took years. It took me 12 years.
And did you break it?
To find what we now know is that the atomic mass of the elements, the numbers of the atomic mass, are the numbers that equate to the mysterious letters in the ancient alphabets. What that means is when you look at human DNA, or the DNA of any life, it is made of hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, and using gematria, the numbers that equate to those become 1, 5, 6, and 3. 3 is with the carbon. And when you then take a table, one of the ancient tables, and you're able to correlate those numbers with the letters, what we find, George, is that the human DNA our genome is built in layers. And at the top layers, it's like every book has an introduction. The introduction in every cell of every form of life, carbon-based DNA, the introduction is the same. And the first translation literally reads, God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. And God that is depicted in the DNA is actually spelled the way that the name of God was spelled in the ancient text before it was removed 6,800 times. In the Torah, for example, the sacred name of God is believed to be so sacred it cannot be written in its entirety.
Why put it in a code?
You know, this was, so first as a scientist, what I have to say is this. People say, why is the code there? Yeah. And I say, I don't know. All I know is that when I followed the instructions in a 3,000-year-old text and I applied it to the periodic table, this is what we have. Yeah. Next question, is it a coincidence? So
there are no coincidences.
I had a statistician run the numbers for me, and the odds of this happening by chance are 1 to 234,256.
Yeah.
234,256 to 1 are the odds, or 0.00041%.
Right.
Those are the odds that it's just
random.
Just random. Now, those aren't astronomical odds. I thought it might be like 1 to a bajillion, But when you take into account,
still high.
Not only is the language there, but when you take into account what the words say, that those words actually have meaning, God eternal within the body.
And they all say that.
The first letter in all human DNA, if you can look at what's called the genetic code, CTAG, Every one of those is made up of combinations of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen. Right. And they are arranged, I don't want to be really technical when I talk about this, but they're arranged different numbers of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen atoms. So within each of the DNA bases that make our DNA as it is, there are different combinations of CTAG that break down to different combinations of God eternal within the body. And the God within our cells, within our DNA, is literally the same spelling of the God that was taken from those texts. Now here's the beauty, I just have to say this. All right. My first fear was I found it in the Hebrew language, and I said, does that mean, could it actually be divisive if it only is found in one language? And when the research went to its fruition, what we found is it is in Hebrew and Aramaic and Sanskrit, three of the root languages.
The same thing.
Exactly the same thing. So in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Sanskrit, the code for those letters translates precisely the same in the human DNA. That is, George, that very few scholars even want to talk about.
Everything we've ever been told is a lie, so here's the most truth you've ever heard in one video. The rapture already happened. Sex was a sin in the garden. Jesus Christ already returned. The law was the mark of the beast. Israel was the beast. Jerusalem was Mystery Babylon. Christianity ended in 70 AD. Today's Christianity is fake. The man of sin and false prophet were Jewish zealot leaders in the first century. The two witnesses were the spirits of John and Daniel. The Euphrates dried up in the first century. We don't need rivers to dry today. We have jets. The 1,000-year reign only lasted for 42 months. There's no third temple in Scripture. The Bible was written to the people it was addressed to. It's not for us. Hell only lasted for 40 years. New Jerusalem is in heaven, not on earth. Jesus ended sin, not evil. Jesus ended the grave, not death. They fled Judea, not the whole world. There is no destruction of the entire planet. When we die, we'll be a ghost. We can go to heaven or the lake of fire. Gentiles never had the law. We should not have 2.4 billion Gentiles reading the law and the prophets and going back to everything that Jesus Christ fulfilled and rejecting Jesus. Today's Christianity got here through war, tyranny, and genocide. Jesus' kingdom was not of this world, yet the Christians own the kingdom of this world. That's why their presidents swear on the Bible. Jesus Christ finished his work and received a new name that nobody knows. He defeated Satan. We should worship God today and not Jesus. Give me a follow. I have videos explaining all these things. Everything we've ever been told is a lie, so here's the most...
What is Walmart actually hiding? So in 2015, Walmart abruptly closed in various locations, mainly in Ohio, all citing plumbing problems. Initially, no one thought anything of it, but things started getting stranger by the day. Well, you see, people found it weird that the plumbing problems were so severe that it required 6 months to fix. Soon after, military personnel were seen moving in and out of the closed locations, building what seemed like defenses around the empty shopping mall. It seemed very apparent that something was going on under the stores. This is where it's getting crazy. In one instance, a lady, I don't remember her name, but whatever, who managed to break past the barrier recounted that upon entering the closed supermarket, she was shocked to find a giant hole dug up in the center of the store. She also stated that there were black tentacles coming out of the hole, and inside the hole itself, there was a red slimy substance. Even though you can watch the video she recorded by clicking on this icon, on More, and finally on YouTube, everyone is still wondering.
Now this is scary. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but there's a theory going around. It's more like a religious theory. I saw a TikTok video where a preacher was talking and he spoke about something very interesting idea. What if God is actually water? Think about it for us.
What if water is God?
Then that would mean God is both in us and all around us. That God is both above and below us. Why a woman's water breaks when we're born.
But there's more. We often say that God is everything. Well, if that's true, then everything around us would be what? Water. There's water in the air even though we can't see it. There's water inside you, inside me, and in every living thing. Now consider places where water is scarce, like deserts or wastelands. What do you usually find there? Death, because of the lack of water, and it's scorching, like hell. Here's something else. In the Bible, when Jesus was tempted by the devil, where was he? In the desert. He was searching for water. Now this is scary. I'm not sure if it's true or not.
Imagine that this folder is a dimensional plane. Now, assuming that it is no height and no depth, what would this mean? It would mean that it's a one-dimensional world. So if, hypothetically, an organism was living inside...
I went too deep. Have you heard of the prison planet theory? Well, guess who just learned about it? Yeah. I didn't sleep last night. I did not sleep last night, and if you keep watching this, you're probably not going to sleep either. So here I am, minding my own business on Reddit when I found Escaping Prison Planet. And for the next 3 hours, I dove too deep. Here's the gist of it. Essentially, we're all trapped here on Earth. We're all trapped here, and everything we know about, like all the religions that believe in reincarnation, all these different things, yeah, we keep coming back to this Earth because there are astral beings that are harvesting our energy, and they are trapping us here. Sounds crazy, right? Sounds crazy. Well, let's get into the details. Apparently, these beings that are controlling us are these reptilian beings that you always hear about. Well, let's dive into it, In Jainism and Hinduism, they have Nagas, half human, half serpent. The Aztec Empire talked about a serpent-like god that they called Quetzalcoatl. And don't tell me if I pronounced it right or wrong. I don't care, okay? Surely, 2 instances, right? This is just a coincidence. African shamans talk about the Shitari, and it is a race of reptilian beings. The Hopi Indians in North America had the Sheti, which translates to snake brothers. Chinese, Japanese, and Korean legends all talk about the Kappa. And Gnostic text, which if you don't know about the Gnostics, Gnosis just means knowledge, and basically what the Gnostics believed was after Christ died, you have to have particular knowledge that would save you. Well, the Gnostics, yeah, they believe in archons, which are parasitic entities that feed off of us. We're doing okay? We doing okay? So the question is why? What are these beings doing? Why are they here? Apparently, they have been involved from the foundations of human history in manipulating us, creating this soul trap, harvesting our energy. And what this theory proposes is essentially that light a tunnel that many people have talked about that have had near-death experiences or death experiences. Yeah, it's just to trick us, to essentially wipe us clean, send our souls back, and start the process again. So every major form of religion talks about how we have a soul. Well, we are a soul. We have a body, right? This body is essentially a rental car. And these beings, what they feed off of, what the energy they feed off of is this low vibrational energy. So whether it's stress, whether it's fear, whether it's contention, pain, grief, jealousy, rage, all of it, anxiety, that's what they feed off of. And so they manipulate and they toy with us and they do all these things to create this energy. Now, I don't know if this is true, but that kind of describes the world we live in. Kind of describes it pretty damn well. I mean, look what Tesla says. He says, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What freaks me out the most is there's so many urban legends talking about these freaking reptilians. That motherfucker right there is not real, right? Like, everything that's going on in freaking Miami, like I think we can all agree that there's multiple dimensions, right? People having experiences on psychedelics where multiple people will take the same thing and they all go to another dimension and see the same thing. Like, how do you explain that? How do you explain that? Explain it to me, please. I'm going way too long with this and I haven't even freaking scratched the surface. But basically, we're just all here. Life is engineered to create this low vibrational energy. And what happens is when we die, when we go through that light tunnel, we're tricked into thinking, hey, you need to go back to Earth, there's more you need to learn, or there's karma you need to resolve, or, there's a higher purpose that you need to do. And we come back, and it's the same thing. Listen, I'm a very spiritual person. Very spiritual. I believe all